What's up guys, Jeff from Sorta Healthy here. Today I'll be covering something that we haven't talked about too much on this channel so far. We'll be talking all about motivation. More specifically, how to motivate different types of personal training clients. When it comes to motivation, in my experience, there are 3 different types of clients. Each of these different clients comes with their own set of challenges, and the way you coach these individuals should vary from person to person. Before we get into breaking down who these different types of clients are and how you should be coaching them for best results, all I ask is that you consider supporting your pals over here at Sorta Healthy. All you have to do is turn that little thumbs up down there blue and subscribe to the channel. This tells YouTube that this content is good, and then YouTube shares it with more people. Thank you for that support, everyone. I really appreciate it. So first things first, who are the 3 types of clients based on their motivation levels? The first one is the highly motivated client who is willing to push through several barriers to achieve their goals. They're the type of person that's going to accomplish their goal one way or another, whether you help them out or not. Granted, your help should still make the process of getting fitter much easier and more enjoyable, and that's ultimately why they're hiring you. About 20% of clients that you work with will likely fall into this category. These people are the easiest to coach, but there are still a few pitfalls to avoid, which of course we'll be going over soon. The second type of client based on their motivation levels is the moderately motivated client. This client is still willing to overcome some barriers that could prevent them from achieving their goals, but they're not as resilient as the highly motivated clients. If they're not given proper coaching and accountability, they can fail on their journey somewhat quickly. About 50% of clients that you're likely to work with fall into this category, making them the most common. The last type of client is the unmotivated client. Either they're really just not that motivated to change their life, or they'll give up very easily when they encounter any real noticeable resistance. All this being said, there are still ways to coach clients like this and still get them results. It's usually just more work compared to more motivated clients. About 30% of potential clients will most closely resemble the person that I'm describing. So undoubtedly, you will encounter people like this pretty often. Before we start going over how to coach these different types of clients, let's be clear on something. Many people won't perfectly fit into any one group. That being said, if you do coach for long enough, you will be able to fit most of your clients into one of these 3 groups. It's also worth mentioning that motivation levels can change over time, so keep that in mind too. Back to client 1, our motivated client. Again, this client is highly motivated and they're also pretty resilient to things getting in their way. If they want something, whether it's a promotion at work or a leaner physique, they make it happen. The reason that we as trainers don't get a ton of clients like this is because most of these people make lifestyle changes on their own. If you're highly motivated and willing to push through adversity, you are less likely to see yourself as someone who needs a trainer. I'm sure this comes as no surprise to many of you. Still though, many highly motivated people will be interested in your services, and they can be really good clients if they're managed the right way. When it comes to getting a highly motivated person results, well, it's pretty easy. If you tell them to do X, 90-something% of the time they're going to get it done. These are the clients that should be getting good results working with us almost all of the time. I've seen trainers make 3 key mistakes when working with these types of clients. The first mistake is not setting up realistic goals right in the beginning. These highly motivated clients are go-getters and they have high expectations. Sometimes their expectations are a little too high and what they want isn't realistic. If someone wants to lose 25 pounds in a month, or they want to add 75 pounds to their bench press in 3 weeks, well, I think we all know the odds of that happening are almost 0. It's best to make sure that your client has realistic goals right in the beginning. If they want something that's not possible, let them know it is possible and tell them how you can help them get there. The second mistake people make with highly motivated clients is not giving them enough coaching. You might think to yourself, Brian is so on top of things right now. We probably don't need to do that weekly weigh-in. You're probably right. Brian, your super motivated client, is probably going to lose a pound that week anyways since he's doing what he needs to do. That being said, because Brian has his together, you really need to have yours together too. These clients have high expectations for themselves, and they're almost always going to have high expectations for you as well. Basically, give this person just as much coaching as anyone else, unless they tell you to back off a bit, or give you a hint that they don't need your assistance with something. If you want them to stay training with you, always show your value. The third mistake that trainers make with these motivated clients is not recognizing when they're losing motivation or need a different coaching approach. Early into my career, I had an all-star couple. We'll call them Tom and Sam. I got Tom down 80 pounds and Sam down 60 pounds over the course of a year or so. They also got way stronger, way fitter, the whole deal. I trained them 3 times a week for years. Eventually, they did start to run into some family issues. Their daughter was having some problems, one of them needed to change jobs, and they were thinking about moving soon. A lot was put on their plates all at once. I, as their trainer, did recognize that they were falling apart a little bit. They were starting to cancel their workouts more, and they were slowly gaining the weight back. If you do training for long enough, most of you will have at least a client or 2 to like I'm describing here. Even though I recognize that this couple was losing motivation and was starting to regress, I never made a big attempt to try any new coaching techniques. I doubled down on what had worked in the past, and I didn't really try anything new. I wish I had helped them a bit more with their protein intake, or just their dietary habits in general. Wish I had just tried some new things at all. I didn't act fast enough, and eventually I did lose these 2 clients. That may have happened regardless, but I should have tried more interventions because it's possible that some of that stuff could have made a difference. So be ready to change up coaching styles and don't make the same mistake that I did. On a more positive note, most of these highly motivated clients will do really well under your coaching. Just make sure you don't take their high motivation levels for granted. Next up, we'll be talking about moderately motivated clients. These clients typically think they're much more motivated than they actually are. In my opinion, if you really want to accomplish a goal, but you give up after a little bit of hardship, you didn't really want it that bad in the first place. Some examples of clients who fall into this camp are clients who start out strong for the first few weeks, getting good results, but after that, they slowly peter out despite your consistent efforts to keep them engaged. Clients who consistently say they want to lose weight, but will only do about 25 to 50% of things that you recommend for results. Also, clients who cancel their workouts somewhat often and don't do much physical activity outside of the facility would also most likely belong here too. There are other telltale signs of a moderately motivated client, but I think that's enough background. Most of you should know the person who I'm describing all too well. I know I'm sounding a little bit negative describing this group, but truth be told, I love these guys. This group keeps us employed and allows us to make a living doing something that we usually enjoy. Also, they really need our help, and even though they're not always the most receptive to our advice, they are willing to listen often enough, usually at least, to make positive changes. Being able to get most of these guys' results is something that will make you or break you. So since I don't think any of you want to be broken, let's cover some strategies that you should be using when coaching these clients. We still need to set realistic goals right from the start, just like we did with our highly motivated clients. This should be done in your initial consultation. If we don't do this, our client can become discouraged when they don't meet their expectations. Unlike the first client, who would likely just get frustrated, this moderately motivated client might just give up altogether. The other 2 strategies we talked about before, giving your client a ton of coaching, and also being ready to change up your plan if things aren't going well, are also really important. In fact, you need to dial these things up to a 10 very often with moderately motivated clients. When it comes to working with moderately motivated clients, the biggest coaching differences will typically occur when you're not training them. Most clients with a medium level of motivation will still do pretty well in their sessions. They're far more likely to fall apart when you're not around though. With these clients, you have to be on top of their nutrition and activity outside of the gym starting on day 1, and you have to stay on top of it as long as you're training them. If you're not giving them homework on what they should be doing cardio-wise, it's a safe bet they'll be spending their afternoons on the couch. To combat this, tell them that they need to do 40 minutes of walking at a moderate pace 3 times a week, in addition to their sessions. If they don't want to do that, give them something equivalent. If they're not willing to do anything like that, it's going to be significantly harder to get them weight loss results. Let them know that. Be straightforward. When it comes to nutrition, you always want them working on 1 or 2 things at any given point. You'll want them to food journal, increase their water intake, and increase their protein intake the vast majority of the time. There will also be certain things like soda that you'll want them to reduce or cut out of their diets altogether. Not only should you be working on this a little bit every time you see your client, but you should also be reaching out to them outside of sessions when necessary. Simply shooting your client a text or email here and there to see if they need any help with anything related to nutrition or exercise between sessions can go a long way. I feel like I talk about this all the time, but what the hell? I'll bring it up here too. A tool that not nearly enough trainers use outside of their sessions are apps like MyFitnessPal. By friending my client on this app, I'll be able to see what they're eating whenever I want. If I can get a client to food journal consistently, I pretty much know they're going to get great results right off the bat. This should be your trump card when working with weight loss clients. For more information on all this nutrition coaching stuff, check out this video we recently released. Other than everything we've already discussed, I also think it's very important to keep things very positive and upbeat when working with moderately motivated clients. Like we've already said, these clients will get discouraged and give up much easier than your more motivated clients. So what you need to do is be as positive and upbeat as you can be. Really, you'll want to do this with all of your clients. You'll just happen to lose lots of less motivated clients if you're not upbeat and positive. So if your client is doing a really good job with squats, tell them, these squats are looking pretty much perfect. Keep up the good work. If they're being consistent with their cardio and food outside of the gym, and you're starting to see the scale move in the right direction, congratulate them on that. The list goes on and on here, but if they're doing something well, let them know about it. This could be the difference between keeping your client or losing them. If they're not doing something well, especially if it's something outside of the gym, it's also important to let them know that they need to work on that right away. If a client agreed that they need to do 40 minutes of walking 3 days a week outside of their sessions, but they're not, you need to find out why, and you need to get them over that hurdle. Their goals and your job both lie in the balance. When you're asking them why they're not doing the work outside of the facility that they're supposed to be doing, you still need to keep things upbeat and positive. They're paying you to hold them accountable, not to lecture them. There's a difference between these two things, and I have to remind myself of this often. It can be frustrating trying to help someone who isn't following the game plan. Sometimes it feels like you want those clients to get those results more than they want it themselves. Whatever the case may be, don't let your emotions get the better of you. Always keep things upbeat, but don't be scared to tell it like it is if there is an issue. The last type of client that we'll encounter based on their motivation levels is the unmotivated client. Oftentimes, these clients will want you to motivate them, and that will be one of the reasons they're seeking you out in the first place. To some extent, we certainly can motivate our clients. That being said, if they're not self-motivated at all, there really isn't so much that we can do. Realistically, we can't just take someone who's super demotivated and just magically make them motivated. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. What do we do with these clients who lack any real motivation or will to change? Well, I know it seems like a little bit of a cop-out, but pretty much we do the same thing that we did with our moderately motivated clients, with only one or two exceptions. You should already be firing on all cylinders when it comes to coaching moderately motivated clients. It's hard to actually overcoach most moderately motivated clients, and the same can be said for most clients who are unmotivated. When you have a client who is truly unmotivated to change their current life situation, the main differences in your coaching should all revolve around your response to your client's attitude. Before we go any further, I'm going to give you two examples of an unmotivated client. One, a client that cancels close to 50% of the time or more. Two, a client who ignores all of your advice despite consistent coaching on your end. There are probably more examples out there, but none come to mind right now. Usually these clients have a bad attitude, or at the very least, constant excuses as to why they keep canceling or not following your advice. The first thing you always need to do is keep your composure. These clients will piss you off, but you always need to stay calm. Never forget that your reputation is on the line. Still, try to keep things positive, but always be willing to enforce your rules. If you have a 24-hour cancellation policy, be ready to use that unless it's an emergency. I personally have never done this, but if the client is bad enough, consider firing them. If they're completely taking advantage of you and affecting your state of mind negatively enough, this might not be a bad move. Like I said, my strategy is to coach these guys the same way I would my moderately motivated clients. Usually these unmotivated clients don't do well, but every once in a while they'll surprise you and gain motivation and confidence through your sessions. And if you play your cards right, that unmotivated client could become a moderately motivated client over time. Try to stay compassionate, try not to judge them too much, and sometimes your patience will pay off. And that, my friends, is all that we have for today. Do you guys have any strategies that help you work with any less motivated clients? If you do, make sure to let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, because both of those two things do help the channel to grow, which does allow me to make more free content for all of you. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, stay sorta healthy.